But for the moment, let's go and talk to the Mayor of Rotorua, who has been prominent in the last 24 hours and really has highlighted that the law and order problem that you think exists in South Auckland and Auckland with ram raids and perhaps has extended to Hamilton is really everywhere, and that people do not feel safe. There have been a number of high-profile assaults, particularly of schoolgirls, it has to be said, in downtown Rotorua in the last 24, 48 hours that exemplified this. And of course there are the ongoing social problems connected with, well, the onset of social housing there, which doesn't seem to have cleared up anytime soon. Joining us out of a meeting, and I appreciate the time she's taken to join us, is the Mayor of Rotorua, Tania Tapsell. Tania, welcome to the show and congratulations on getting elected Mayor. That was a big deal.
Thank you very much, Michael, and I know as a former Mayor of Wanganui, you would understand the big job I have ahead of me too.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that actually. I was thinking, I know where you are at the moment. It's just getting your head around it all. Can I just say, though, that as a former parliamentary candidate, you would prefer probably to be where you are, because even if you went in this election, you'd be a government backbencher. There's no lower form of life than a government backbench MP. As a mayor, you can make things happen. Are you finding that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I'm really enjoying that here as me, when we have had issues like the emergency housing and motels, we were able to go very hard and make change very quickly. Now, for our community and the people of Rotorua, they really appreciate it. But I think it speaks to a good way of doing politics, where it's, we can get distracted by what's happening nationally, but how are we making sure that we're making change in our own backyards? Yes,
and as you say, you don't need to go through a process for it. You can just make a council resolution and off you go, and you can drive that as mayor. Which takes me to the next point. In the last 48 hours, you've been very, very strong on the fact that you believe that your citizens in Rotorua are not as safe as they should be because police resources and manpower in your town is missing. Have I got that right?
Yes, so I've made a strong call to the government that we do need urgent additional police resource in Rotorua, and if I can explain why, there is not much transparency on the numbers of police officers and the resources and where we deploy them across the country. So as a mayor of a town who has one of the highest crime rates in the country, we do not see that resourcing reflected in what we have. So make no doubt there is amazing policemen and women here in Rotorua that are doing an incredible job, but there's just simply not enough of them to deal with the issues, and that's what we've seen also with recent assaults and issues in the inner city of Rotorua, where we just don't have enough police. So, as the council, we're having to put in our own resource, ratepayers' money, to deal with these gaps.
Yeah, that's remarkable. We had to do the same in Wanganui. Listen, talking about police numbers, I'm stunned that you say that, because you should, as the Mayor of Rotorua, know how many sworn police are operating in your district. You don't know that?
No, to get that information, you would have to do an official information request.
Oh, you're joking.
So, yes, no, I'm not joking. We do have an incredibly good partnership with police. However, it's just the way the system operates, and I don't think that is reflective of how we need to deal with urgent issues in our communities. So there still is some secrecy there, unfortunately.
That's incredible, because that's public information. That's just ridiculous. That leads to the next bit, though. What sort of resources are you currently putting in as a council to deal with that inadequacy of police resources in your city?
It's going to blow your mind, because I think it blows Rotorua's mind. It's $1.8 million that we spend annually on ensuring community safety. What that goes into is the cost of inner city guardians. Now, these are our, light touch security guards that are around town, making sure that not only are they de-escalating situations, but they're there in case it goes in. Also, CCTV cameras, which are a very valuable resource for police, and of course the additional security officers like the ones that we place in and outside the library.
Why is the library a particular source of antisocial activity, do you think?
Oh, I know, right? You'd think a library would be a nice, relaxing place, of which it is, but unfortunately we do have bus stops. So it's our main bus stop routes. So all the children in Rotorua that finish school and they jump on the buses, the local City Road buses, they do all get dropped off about the same time. Now, what is good is we've had Bapini Regional Council. I met with them immediately after these latest incidences, and they are looking at rerouting some of those because, I think in any town, if you get kids coming from all different schools and landing in the same spot at the same time, naturally there are some tensions. But the level of violence and social disorder we're seeing now, like across the country, is just completely out the gate. These are children who are as young as intermediate age, having fights and wearing colours, and at times acting very dangerously, and it becomes very difficult for the rest of us who are trying to enjoy our public spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And the gang operation, the colours operation, will only exemplify and amplify that, obviously. Listen, you've also got, and Rotorua got a bit of a name for itself in the last probably 2-3 years, Tania, related to the, how can I put this nicely, the large number of antisocials that ended up in motels, particularly down your sort of civic streets and your main civic streets as well, and the deleterious effects as a result of that. Has that improved at all, or is it still a problem for you?
Look, and there was nothing nice about it. It fortunately has improved, but when I was elected mayor almost a year ago, I advocated really hard because our community had been saying to the government, we've been dealing with this for the past 2 years, and then I came in and said it needs to end in 2 months. So we did commit to an exit strategy. It's called a Rotorua Housing Accord, but we do have in writing an agreement with government that will reduce motels to near zero, understanding that we will need some. However, fortunately, we do have half the households that were in there previously, and that's because they've either been able to go back to where they came from or go into better transitional or long-term housing. So that's been a really positive for us here in Rotorua. Honestly, if you came to visit us, and we get this feedback all the time, people come and they go, geez, we heard it was so bad. And they come and they go, oh, wow, it's beautiful. We didn't see anyone. We didn't have any problems. And that's the case. But unfortunately, down one street of those motels is where the issue was happening. But what we're seeing now is the issue is within the inner city specifically, and we do hear reports that, yes, some of the children causing issues are, of course, from the families who are in the motels. And can I just say, motels is not a home. It's not a safe place for these people to be there either. So we have been encouraging strongly towards our government agencies to make sure that it is appropriate for everyone.
Tania, how did it happen in the first place? I mean, why were all these motels that have previously obviously been dealing with the tourism trade that came into Rotorua, how did they end up becoming social housing dumping grounds?
It was just the most incredible progression from starting with 2 motels when the first lockdown occurred, and then there was a discussion between the government and the mayor at the time that said, look, we're going into lockdowns. We don't know how bad COVID's going to be. People can't be on the streets. So he said, okay, and we brought in all the homeless that were known. That was enough to fill only 2 motels. We ended up with about 56, almost 60. So it was a very awkward conversation when that first lockdown ended and we started getting a handle of, okay, what's COVID, what's the impact going to be for the community? And it was, okay, thank you, we're going to end this now. But of course it was, but they're in there and we can't kick them out. And unfortunately, it did become a trial, believe it or not, for the government, where they trialled emergency housing in Rotorua. So that's why we got the worst rep in the country for it, and that's why they expanded so much, because when we're pushing back saying, hey, we'll look after our own, which we did with the 2, but we can't keep taking people from all over the country, all over the region. But the government operates differently. Apparently there's no borders in this country. So we keep advocating for our community, though.
So has that stopped now? Have those people stopped coming into Rotorua or not?
Yes, look, I've got to be honest, it got so bad and they finally listened, and although we don't have it in writing, we do have a good agreement that we will not have people in from out of town, and we have seen that reflected, which is why those motel numbers have dropped by half. Okay,
but I guess some of the social problems and the law and order problems you're talking about at the moment, and I mean, let's be honest about it, Rotorua has always had an antisocial element like most provincial cities in New Zealand. That would have been amplified, though, by having these people coming into your community, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. We have evidence and crime hotspot maps that show that around the motel areas was just an explosion of crime. And our neighbouring residents, unfortunately, were impacted the most by this. And, I had to deal with many local residents, of which we were able to find solutions. However, we still have that around there, whether it's car theft, whether it's witnessing quite severe social disorder, and just a general concern for their health and safety, which has not been positive for us at all. But speaking with mayors from other communities, that's what they've seen around the motels too. So yes, people need a roof over their heads, but the way that the motels are operating is just not acceptable. And if I can be honest, from a council perspective, when that building, that motel, is consented to be a tourism accommodation, why was the government continuously able to break the law on allowing it to be used for residential purposes, not short-term tourism accommodation? And the biggest headache for us now is, as we clear out the motels, that what we are finding is that they'll go into backpackers or hostels. Now, we pushed really strongly in Rotorua against that. We've had 7 fires in Rotorua. So when we had the Loafers Lodge fire in Wellington, which was just devastating, you kind of go, we've been warning that this is not safe or adequate, and we need better solutions for those in need.
I like you, Tania. You're a direct talker and you don't shy away from the problems you've got. The most important thing as a mayor is being honest about yourself and your situation, because that's the only way you'll find a solution. You stood for the National Party at the last election, probably the wrong one to stand in. Your name is Tapsel. I was in Parliament with Peter Tapsell. Any relationship?
Yes, it's a great uncle of mine, although I ended up on the other side of Parliament. Yes, he's a great uncle of mine, and I grew up on Tapsel Road in Rotorua, believe it or not, where his Rotorua homestead is only a few houses down.
No, he's a nice man, Peter Tapsell. He's a wonderful man. And obviously, is he still alive?
Unfortunately not, no, but he's still well known and respected for not only his politics, but he was also an orthopaedic surgeon. So that's when right. I knock on doors here in Rotorua, people go, oh yeah, he fixed my knee. So,
yep, that's right. He was, what was he, the MP for Eastern Maori? Was it Eastern Maori? Did I get that right?
Yes, he was. Yeah, over in the East Coast.
That's right. Listen, well, you also got elected. I note you had some pretty good competition, I have to say. How have you found the new council, new mayor? You were at least on the council, so at least you've got some sort of awareness of it. But how have you found dealing with your council over the last, 7 or 8 months?
Oh, look, it's been really good. So I've had been a councillor for 9 years, which was a great training ground, which I think is why I've been able to get in and say, yep, this is what we're doing and this is how we do it. But here in Rotorua, we had unprecedented change. We've got 10 councillors and 7 are brand new around the table. But I think that is a reflection of where the not only our community, but where the country is at. Change is on the horizon. It's been great for us here in Rotorua, so we'll see what else is to come.
And you've got a Maori award as well. How does that work for you? All right?
Yes, so we have 3 Māori seats here in Rotorua, and we also have something quite unique. We have 1 rural seat as well.
Oh, okay. So the rural seat is just for... Oh, okay. That's Karen Barker. She got that job, didn't she?
Yeah, and she is incredible. And it's actually been... It's been amazing having that rural voice back at the table. A lot of our provincial councils used to, and in Rotorua we've had a number of previous mayors that had a rural background, but of course over time as the population in the urban areas increase, people kind of vote in the people they know from the urban area, and we lost that rural voice. So she's been doing an incredible job advocating for them.
And finally, your volcanic attractions, if you like, the Whakareureu, etc., are they still going okay? There was some talk about them diminishing in quality because of, well, I don't know, that there wasn't the same pressure, I guess, and things like that. But how are they bearing up at the moment?
Oh, we've been stoked here in Rotorua that our tourism numbers and also spending have returned to, if not the same, then almost pre-COVID levels.
Oh, that's good.
So, I think once we tackled the emergency housing and the negative perceptions, people just wanted to flock back to Rotorua. And actually, you know what, we've got amazing staff and tourism operators that people really enjoy the experience here.
Yeah, and I also like your lakes. I like what you've done around the front of the lake there. That's good, bringing the lake into town, basically.
Yep, well, we've got 16 lakes here in Rotorua, but our Rotorua lakefront has had significant investment, and it's looking amazing. It's you stand there and you go, yep, we're in Rotorua. We're not just in a park that could be anywhere in the world, and that's a result of working alongside the community. Not only we actually got our kids in to say, hey, what do you want to see on a park, instead of us adults deciding what was the latest, coolest thing, but also partnership with iwi. So we've got some beautiful artwork down there.
Now, finally, just to take your mayor hat off for a second, there's an election in 6 weeks' time. Well, actually, to put it back on now, I think about it. If there is a change in government, particularly for the issues that you've identified as relevant to Rotorua, are you expecting to get the resources that you require to deal with the problems that you've got? Have you been given some degree of confidence that things might change?
Yes, look, as Mayor, I talk with all of the MPs across the different parties, but I do have some pretty strong and good commitments, of course, from our National Party MP. He's the Rotorua electorate MP, Todd McClay. He advocated very strongly against emergency housing motels. He supports us in being realistic and addressing the crime and disorder that we have here. And, of course, he's got the experience around tourism, which is so important to us. So we have very good, productive conversations, and, yes, I do believe that we'll be well supported if there was a change too.
Good on you. Thank you, Tania, and thank you so much for your generosity in joining us. Good on you, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Tania Tapsell, the Mayor of Rotorua. It's quite an interesting election. She was, as she says, she was on the council for a wee while. A number of people stood. Tania got elected with probably only a third of the vote because, about 5 or 6 other candidates had the other 2/3 spread amongst them. So she won, she was a long way ahead of whoever got second, but, she'll be hoping to get over 50% of the vote at the next election. It depends what you do, of course. Todd McClay will be on if there is a change in government, one would expect him to be on the front bench of the new National/Act, maybe New Zealand First, or don't. Oh, God. Of the new administration. So, yeah, Rotorua, help might be on its way. And the fact that she was a national candidate wouldn't hurt you in terms of opening doors, I found, when you're party was in, or your ex-party in this particular case. Never, ever, ever, ever underestimate, can I say to you, the ability of individuals to change things when it comes to mayors and ministers. It's amazing. But if you can get into a minister's office as a mayor, you can really change stuff. Well, you used to be able to. I don't know if the all-powerful Wellington bureaucracy still works to stop people like Tania Tapsell having an influence in changing government policy or not. But it won't hurt having her where she is.